Sitting here, listening to the SBA administrator and the SBA being taken to task for not being responsive and not doing their job is pretty rich, considering that the Republicans on this committee have failed to show up when it's time for us to make a decision up or down on the nomination of Delaware Sayed to be Deputy Administrator of SBA. And I also listened to the ranking member say just now, a little while ago, that this hearing comes at a perilous time for small businesses. I agree, we should get on with it. And we should start with the Republicans not boycotting the numerous times that, Mr. Chairman, you have called on us to do our jobs on this committee. So I do have one question relating to Mr. Sayed for the administrator. Knowing that these are perilous times, would having a confirmed deputy administrator on your leadership team be helpful to your work?
Thank you so much, Senator Hirono, for that question. Deputy Administrator plays a role in operations at the SBA, and of course, that position is important at the SBA, and Delaware Sayed is highly qualified and would be an excellent choice if the committee moves forward to vote.
Yeah, I'd suggest that we all do our jobs. So regarding Native American businesses, as you know, one of my top priorities is working to make sure that we do more in DC to better support Native businesses, including Native Hawaiian businesses, and I've had that discussion with you. Last year, for example, I worked with my colleagues to introduce bipartisan legislation that would fully authorize SBA's Office of Native American Affairs to ensure Native businesses have a stronger voice within SBA. So I was glad to see the President's budget proposal increase funding for outreach to these businesses. Can you speak to how SBA will prioritize outreach to Native businesses in the coming year and describe some of the kinds of outreach activities that you would be pursuing with these Native businesses?
Thank you, Senator Hirono. We share that priority in the Biden-Harris administration, and the agency's moved to ensure that Native-owned businesses and tribal-owned businesses can access the programs of the SBA. First and foremost, of course, I've elevated the Office of Native American Affairs to report directly to me so we can prioritize the activities, including outreach and education and the administration of grants that they do to entities to help support them. I will highlight that within the Community Navigator pilot program that we have funded at the national scale on our Tier 1 grantee, Awista Corporation, which is a CDFI, collaborative, and they are doing outreach to ensure that Native-owned businesses are connected to capital and resources within the federal government at the SBA. In addition to that national, we have multiple, almost half of the entities that are funded also focused on Native communities in their various territories that they cover. So with this additional support of the community navigators, we feel that our entrepreneurial development support to Native communities can be better satisfied so that we can connect them to our resources. And then, of course, on access to capital issues, as we expand our Community Advantage program and look at adding new CDFIs, we're hopefully going to be leveraging these relationships with the Native CDFI community to increase access to capital. Finally, I would say, of course, that on our contracting programs in particular, that we are focused outreach on making sure that when we try to increase the number of small businesses doing business with the federal government, that we do that inclusively, including to Native-owned businesses and tribal-owned entities.
I think these kinds of outreach efforts are really important because just saying that it's important, if we don't put in processes and ways that we're going to do that, it just doesn't happen. And I also want to mention that the Office of Manufacturing recently created is going to be doing more to support small and medium-sized manufacturers. So that's a whole other area of funding that is going to be very important. And I'll certainly give you feedback from the Native-owned businesses that I work with as to how these kinds of outreach programs are helping them. Thank you for your commitment, Administrator Guzman.
Thank you. We'd welcome the opportunity to work with you.
Thank you.